Welcome to the Nonprofit Report, your update on nonprofit organizations, issues, and leaders. I'm your host, Mark Oppenheim, and today we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming the team of the SOLACE Collective, Aidan Turner, Chief Executive Officer, Carolyn Fernandes, Chief Product Officer, and Lucas Dodsness, Chief Financial Officer. And without further ado, I'd like to go to you, Aidan, because we only focus on nonprofit organizations, issues, and leaders. Why are we talking to the SOLACE Collective today? Why are we covering your work as a business?
We are here because SOLACE Collective has been supported by and was created through the Intelligence Plus Plus program, which is supported by Gianfranco Zaccai and the Syracuse University Taishov Center for Inclusive Higher Education.
This is all really about how a university, a philanthropist, other leaders, great leaders like Hobie Wedler, have come together to mentor you in developing this business. And you basically are setting a model, really, for how we all should think about business, not always about a particular profit motive, but also about how to make society better. Carolyn, tell us a little bit about the origin story of SOLACE Collective.
Yeah, definitely. So I am neurodivergent myself. I have autism, ADHD, anxiety, and OCD, the whole alphabet soup. But I was once rejected from a job because I was picking at my nails during the interview. The interviewer had approached me afterwards and said it was super unprofessional, and it just kind of looked like I didn't really care about the job. And that kind of left a lasting impact on me and kind of kickstarted me to want to do something like this where we can create designs that are inclusive for all.
And it's interesting how I learned about this, because I learned about it through Lucas. Lucas, who happens to be my godson, we were chatting one day, and he talked about the company, and he talked about the university program at Syracuse University where he attended. And Lucas, take it from there.
Yeah, so I had worked previously with Aidan Turner, and he was actually connected to Intelligence Plus Plus, where he actually met Carolyn Fernandes. And he came to me and he wanted to blend his previous experience of fashion with neurodivergent, inclusive, sensory-friendly clothing. And so we built a team of designers, had another business major underneath me. And, we put our minds together and we came up with Project 002, which then became SOLACE Collective.
I find it so interesting because it's been sponsored. Intelligence Plus Plus is sponsored by Gianfranco Zaccai, who himself is a designer. He has two kids who are neurodivergent. And he looks at his work as trying to fill gaps that are not filled in really elegant ways. So talk a little bit about how that sort of sensibility informs how you approach your work to create a commercial business that is actually fulfilling a gap that is in the market, where there is actually demand that you, through your lived experience, discovered. And then working with Aidan, the designer, Lucas, the CFO, you're building this company. Talk a little bit about how that actually came about and how Gianfranco Hobie Wedler, who was born without vision, how those sensibilities informed your process to create this company.
First, we had to recognize the gap and quantify the gap. Through my experience working with Intelligence Plus Plus and having conversations with the leaders of that program, I understood that there was a gap that was present, but there was a huge, it would be a huge undertaking. The whole program is focused on creating products for individuals with disabilities. Some may be physical, some may be invisible, but we needed to, of course, narrow that down to a much more niche focus. So we actually started, myself, Carolyn, and Lucas, with a 430 plus person response survey. And we asked people what their experience with clothing was like. And 95% said that they experienced discomfort from clothing. And that was where we understood there was a need.
Who was your sample group? Because the sample group, of course, influences the answer, Caroline. So who did you go out and poll?
That's a great question. So we actually tapped into all three of our networks to get people to respond to the survey. So obviously there was a handful of Syracuse University students and teachers and friends located in that area. But then there was also some people from each of our networks. Like, for example, I was able to get that posted in my local newspaper. So I had people who were 90 plus years old answering the questions. And someone else had someone, I believe it was 8 years old, answering the questions. So we had a really big range of ages, and demographics was generally distributed. We obviously were just starting out, so we couldn't make it perfect, but we tried our best to make sure that the sample size was not super influenced based on, just Syracuse University as a hub, and pulling from everyone's experience that we could.
So each of you became a market research node, and you defined, did you coordinate your definitions, Lucas, with Caroline's definitions and Aidan's definitions?
Yeah, prior to us reaching out to our networks for the responses, we kind of had a sheet that we had in our Google Docs where we kind of outlined everything that we were saying. We kind of built like a template of what we were going to send out and share, and the way we were going to structure everything. So we were trying to have like all the information we provided to be virtually identical when we were asked for the responses. Plus, we sat down with our team for a good amount of time going through each and every question, making sure it wasn't like repetitive, make sure it wasn't a wasted question, to ensure that it would get the fullest answers possible.
So this is really interesting because there is this sort of attack against diversity, right? But if you're doing a market survey, you actually have to go to diverse clients, right? You have to go to people of different ages, you mentioned, right? But also different ethnic backgrounds, right? Different reference points, neurodivergent folks, men and women, people who identify in different ways. Are you sure that your sample size was sufficiently representative of your potential market?
Absolutely. I'm very confident that we were able to cover such a wide range of people and identities. And that showed specifically as we continued to develop the product and later held feedback events with our prototypes where people could interact with them. And after that first round of feedback, this second, much more physical, tactile feedback is what really, really prompted us to continue with developing the products.
Now, this product is for people who have different types of neurodivergences.
Really, it's for anybody who experiences any discomfort with clothing. So as we were having these conversations and collecting all of this feedback and this data, we realized that of course, the neurodivergent population does have heightened sensory difficulties. And that is something that we designed the products to solve. But because we designed the products to help provide so much relief without compromising on style, the products are very, very accessible and actively stylish for anybody who just wants a hoodie, who doesn't want a tag sticking in their back or rough seams all over their body. It works for a pretty wide range of individuals.
So you anticipated my question when we're going to talk a little bit about design and we're going to talk about testing, but they're interrelated in that your design, you used an iterative testing process, right? You designed something, you created it, you tested it, you redesign it, you tested it, and so on. So talk a little bit about that process to ensure that you actually have a market, because you're not only dealing with different types of customers, but as you said, Aidan, it's not just people who are neurodivergent, but you also have all these different types of priorities. Lucas, why don't you start us off, and then Caroline, you jump in, and Aidan, maybe you round us off in terms of talk a little bit about how that design process and testing process unfolded.
Yeah, of course. The first thing I wanted to say, just piggybacking off of Aidan prior, was, as they said, it's something that can be worn by all, neurodivergent and neurotypical. What I found really interesting, though, was those who were neurotypical were were not as self-aware of the everyday sensory issues that they face. So those who are neurodivergent, they were very self-aware of the issues they have with their garments, whereas those who are neurotypical, once they read the survey and they really answered the questions, they were like, okay, actually, yeah, I do have discomfort when I'm looking at my, where I'm wearing it like this, or where I'm doing that, and like all that. So we actually got a lot of really good feedback and engagement just simply because of that. Just kind of a simple education of for the neurotypical of what their garments are every day. And they were more self-aware, and they're like, holy hell, like I want to buy your garments simply because, I want those tags gone. I want those seams reversed, which I thought was really interesting.
I love the conversion of what others tag as a weakness, Carolyn, into a superpower, right? That's what Lucas was saying, right? On testing, when you're testing, that ability to focus and feel, and Hobie made the exact same point, right? In terms of, he says, it's not that I can taste any better than anyone else because I'm blind. It's just that I can focus, and I've learned that habit of focus. How do you feel about that idea of a superpower when it comes to doing certain things in certain contexts that also are weaknesses in other contexts?
I love this question. And I do want to start off by saying that's kind of why the Gianfranco Zakai program at Syracuse University is called Intelligence Plus Plus. I'm sure he gave that whole spiel in that webinar, but that really empowered me specifically because just to reiterate, it's kind of going along the lines of those with disabilities, whether it's mental or physical, have a certain kind of intelligence that's just not valued by stereotypical society. And for me, it comes in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms. The heightened sensory experience is definitely one of them. And to kind of go into your question about testing and designing and that feedback process, for me, it was actually a little bit easy because of who I am and my neurodivergence, because I'm able to so clearly see other people's habits that are neurodivergent kind of leaning. So I have a ton of friends who fidget in different ways, shapes, and forms, but they don't notice that they are until I point it out to them. That was a big research project for me. I would just watch other people in class or just out and about and see how they were fidgeting just naturally without thinking, because that tends to be what fidgeting looks like. And I'd notice them do it over extended periods of time. So I knew that was their kind of release of the energy. As soon as I'd approach them, though, and say, do you find yourself doing this often? They'd say, doing what? And I'd have to be like, you were playing with your hair for the entire talk, like just twirling your hair. And they'd be like, oh, I guess I do that. And in that way, kind of going off of what Lucas was saying, most of the time people don't notice their neurodivergent tendencies, but those who are neurodivergent, it becomes like so clear to us, and not everyone. Obviously, neurodivergence is super big of a spectrum in terms of how it manifests for you. But at least for me, it becomes super obvious to see how certain people have to go about their environment, especially with perceiving how people feel and act and what they want to say versus what they're actually saying. Because I'm neurodivergent, I'm able to really pull those things together and have a keener sense on those kinds of interactions that most people, neurotypical people, kind of overlook because it's just background to them.
It's also very instructive in terms of being a recruiter, right? All of us come to the table with preconceptions and various types of ignorance. None of us knows everything. So when we're sitting with candidates, it's really important for us to be aware that there are things that might affect our judgments that have nothing to do with their ability to do the job. And that's your story, Caroline. And we can always, by our behaviors, we can leave value on the table. And that's what you've created, Aidan, with this opportunity to create new clothing, because everybody else who is developing clothing, or perhaps not everybody, but a lot of designers aren't paying attention to these aspects. And by paying attention in the way that you have, you're opening up a market opportunity. So talk a little bit about your design and talk about the supply chain, because you have a testing, you have to use testers who have all these different attributes. Then you design a product, you decide to produce it. What do you do next? Because I take it you're not all breaking out the sewing kits and yourselves cutting this. So are you sourcing your clothing on an international basis, like so other manufacturers do? How does that work?
Yeah, so the foundational approach that we took in our design process is based off of our three pillars. You can find this information on our website, but it's listen, adapt, and empower. So first we listen, and that was through the surveys. We did a lot of one-to-one conversations, especially Carolyn, and we understand what the needs are, what the problems are. Next, we adapted. So all of our solutions are ways that we made the garments more sensory friendly in ways that are familiar and existing in the garment manufacturing process. And what I mean by that is we aren't manufacturing these plastic fidgets and putting these foreign objects in the garments. We're using techniques in the way of how the garment is created, the architecture of the garment, if you will, to create these solutions. So finding very unique ways that are a lot relatively simpler.
So you're designing with reference to how manufacturing actually functions.
Exactly.
Very important, very practical.
Yes.
And I just want to throw one thing out there, because I just remember this from like the very beginning when we were trying to add these unique features to it. We made it very we stressed this so often that we wanted all of our materials, all of the features to include items and items that are already found in the warehouse. We didn't want to like order in any fidget features that weren't already there, which is kind of piggybacking off what he had just mentioned there. You know, we want to keep it simple. We want to have those features there, and we didn't just want to throw some toys in there and sew it in. And
you have to build in margin into the garment when you manufacture it. If it's too expensive, the whole enterprise falls apart. So you have to think about the financial planning as well.
Exactly. That was a really important factor of trying to keep it all from the warehouse.
So where are these manufactured?
So before I jump into that, I want to finish with our last pillar, and that is empower. And so we are not compromising on style. We are making sure that these are garments that fit in with everybody's everyday wardrobe. They are not ostracizing. They are not too loud, although our Frey collection is probably it's on the louder side. It's a fashion statement, but that all the solutions are done so in a very fashionable way. And so we are sourcing these garments right now overseas, currently manufacturing in Pakistan, and I've had connections there. I've been actually working there with my manufacturer since 2021. So I've been doing that for the past 5 years. With my personal brand, my clothing brand, which is how I got started in the garment space in the first place. And so leveraging that connection was very, very crucial, especially because the types of garments, I remember my manufacturer telling me, Matt, that these are the most outrageous, complicated technical packages, which is basically the instruction manual on how to create a garment. That he has ever seen before. And so luckily I had that relationship. Otherwise it may have been a lot more difficult, a lot more expensive to get these garments. It's
not transactional. And you're doing some other things. You're upcycling materials. So Absolutely. You're trying to, in no respect are you trying to be perfect in every respect, but you're trying to be conscious. You have gone to people that you trust. So trust in this supply chain is important. You're not just being transactional. You want people who are going to create garments that others can wear and you can trust that they won't come apart.
Exactly.
Right. So all of these aspects are really important. As you go and you target customers, are you selling directly to end users? Are you trying to get distribution chains, distribution partners as well? Stores, retail outlets, online stores? How does that work?
So right now we're focusing primarily on direct to consumers through our website. We have solace-collective.com where you can go order all of our garments directly from us. However, we are in the process and actively seeking partnerships with retail stores, organizations, online marketplaces, people who, or institutions and locations where our garments would fit in and be a great addition to their existing product selection.
It's just a fabulous story. If we were going to go back to the origin of you all meeting at Syracuse University, what do you think about this idea of creating higher education that is really geared toward these areas where people have traditionally been excluded, where we've left value on the table, where we have not provided opportunities simply because of things like a tendency to fidget or function in a way that is not so generic that it draws attention to the person. Somebody who is blind, or somebody who is deaf and needs some help, or somebody whose mobility is challenged, right? The fact is that unemployment amongst people who are different is way higher than people who adhere to a norm, and that needs to change. How do you feel about having a university that is taking this kind of step be part of your incubation story?
I cannot be more thankful for being gone through the design program at Syracuse University. Universal design and inclusive design is definitely a topic that's becoming more prevalent in design education, but it's not as valued as it is in Syracuse and most other places. Having that, first and foremost, the Intelligence Plus Plus program was great. But on top of that, all of our courses that are in the School of Design always point to making sure that with whatever user group we are designing for, we are considering the non-users, so the people we aren't necessarily designing for, but that will still use this thing. And the best example coming out of design education that I like to give with this discussion is sidewalks. So for wheelchair users, there is a curb down, like a little ramp for them to navigate from road to sidewalk. But that design is a solution that helps many and not just wheelchair users. It helps moms who have strollers and babies, scooters and bikes. It helps anyone with a wheel or a suitcase. So it's things like that where, you put a little creative spin to it and you realize that solutions that include more tend to be the better solution anyways.
Well, what you're saying is that we all deviate from the norm in some way. So if you have solutions that also help people who deviate from the norm, then it helps us. And it either is going to happen when we're really young babies and in a stroller, or when we're really old and need a walker. It could help us, right? All of us who temporarily might not need that support will likely need that in the future.
I couldn't agree more. And the example that I like to use, similar to Carolyn's, is subtitles. So the very, very similar example. And what's really, really important to us is this constant feedback loop, is this constant iteration and recreation, reimagination of our products. We approached these different styles and the different garments that we have first with the intention of we're going to build around a certain set of needs. So right now we have 4 different items in our product lineup, 3 specialty core items, and then a t-shirt as well to complement everything. And we built these with the intention that these are going to help certain people with certain needs. But we also understand that it's not a one size fits all. So to those that may not benefit directly or are looking for a different kind of iteration in our product, we hear you, we understand you, and we are always looking to develop products. Now, I will say, to build off of that, we are always looking to partner with any nonprofit organizations, whether they work directly with individuals who are neurodivergent, have disabilities, or are just part of the community. We're always looking to make partnerships and continually collect feedback from our users to help make the products we have better now, and also make new products down the line. And so always looking to partner, and would love to offer any sort of collaboration in terms of feedback events. We love hanging out with people and meeting new people, and always looking to offer any discounts and donations back to organizations that are willing to help us out.
You know, this whole idea of creating a business that is welcoming the input of others who are perhaps a little bit off the radar, that's really where businesses are built. Businesses are never built, new businesses, new ideas are never built out of conventional wisdom. It always comes out of unconventional wisdom. Lucas, you want to take us out with a stunning encapsulation of what you all have accomplished? I'm serious about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of success whilst we were at Syracuse University. We did fairly well in multiple pitch competitions, getting first and second place in a numerous amount. We've also won plenty of grants, multiple through Intelligence Plus, and a couple others. If Carolyn and Aidan want to throw in a couple of names, they can. But one thing I really want to touch on is we are very optimistic and excited about SOLACE Collective and the future of SOLACE Collective. And we've currently started in sweatwear, but you know, touching back on your point of unemployment and touching back to Carolyn's story of her interview, we'd like to eventually branch out into professional wear. So it's more sensory friendly and accommodating for professional settings. We'd love to get into undergarments. Again, these are all industries and areas where it's worn by neurodivergent, neurotypical, eventually branch out to sportswear, where it's very uncomfortable clothing, but it's there, you know, to optimize your performance. So it kind of does move away from that sensory friendly aspect. And you know, the list is endless of where SOLACE Collective can branch out to, and the industries that we can move into. So, you know, we're always really excited, as Aidan said, to network and connect with any organization out there, regardless of what industry you're in, because I'm sure that we can always find a place for SOLACE Collective in that industry.
I love that summary. Basically, what you're saying, thinking different opens a world of possibilities. Aidan Turner, Chief Executive Officer, Carolyn Fernandes, Chief Product Officer, Lucas Stoltzen is Chief Financial Officer, also my godson. I'd like to thank you all for your wonderful, wonderful work and sharing the work of the SOLACE Collective with us. I'd also like to issue a special thanks to Syracuse University and for all of the supporters, Beth Myers, who runs the program, Hobie Wedler, Gianfranco Zakai, who funds it. This is just so important. Other universities should follow in their footsteps, and other businesses should follow in yours. Thank you so much for your insights.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Love talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
This is amazing. Thank you.